Did you ever wonder if love could bloom between worlds? Even in the dusty, mysterious days of the Middle Ages? What if your soulmate wasn't quite human? Get ready to uncover the most enchanting, bizarre, and sometimes heartbreaking medieval romances, all featuring creatures from beyond your wildest dreams. Number 8. The Selkie Wife. Deep in the windswept, wave-crashed fringes of the medieval world, where the ocean's roar was a constant lullaby, and the mists clung heavy to the shore, people told tales of creatures that blurred the line between land and sea. These were the Selkies, beings of profound mystery and sorrowful beauty. They were seals, in the cold embrace of the water, sleek and graceful, diving through the kelp forests and playing among the waves. But when they shed their skin on the rocky shores or deserted beaches, they emerged as human, captivating in their ethereal loveliness, with eyes that held the depth and sadness of the ocean itself. Many a lonely fisherman or isolated farmer, living by the tumultuous North Atlantic, would recount stories passed down through generations about encounters with these elusive beings. The love stories involving Selkies often began with a chance encounter, a moment of profound wonder when a human witnessed a Selkie shedding its skin, revealing its true form. The most common narrative involved a human man perhaps wandering along a moonlit beach who stumbled upon a discarded sealskin. Nearby, a woman of extraordinary beauty, with hair like seaweed and eyes like sea glass, would be basking in the moonlight, completely unaware that her connection to the sea lay vulnerable. The human man, immediately enchanted by her otherworldly grace, would seize the sealskin, knowing that, without it, the Selkie could not return to her watery home. This act, though often portrayed as one of possessiveness, was born from an overwhelming desire to keep this magical creature by his side, to make this fleeting vision a permanent reality. He would hide the skin often, in a locked chest or beneath the floorboards of his humble cottage, ensuring that his new love remained on land, forever bound to him. The Selkie, now trapped in her human form, would often resign herself to her fate. Perhaps she understood the human heart's desperate longing for connection, or perhaps the sheer power of her captor's infatuation held her tethered. She would marry the man, and together they would build a life. These unions were often blessed with children who inherited aspects of both worlds. They might have webbed fingers or toes, or an uncanny affinity for the sea, perhaps even the ability to communicate with marine life, traits that marked them as descendants of a magical union. The Selkie wife would be a devoted partner, a loving mother, skilled in the ways of land-dwelling folk, yet an undeniable sadness would always linger in her eyes, a wistful yearning that no amount of human comfort could truly dispel. Their home, no matter how warm or filled with laughter, could never truly replace the vast, unbounded freedom of the ocean. The Selkie wife would gaze out at the crashing waves with an aching heart, listening to the calls of the seals, her true kin, longing for the cold, dark depths that were her birthright. Her human husband, though deeply in love, could never truly understand the profound loss she carried. He had gained a wife and a family, but she had lost her very essence, her connection to her home. The medieval people who told these tales often wove in elements of natural observation with their folklore. The mysterious appearance of seals near the shore, their haunting cries, or their sudden disappearance, all fed into the belief that these were not just animals, but sentient, magical beings. The Selkie stories also served as cautionary tales about the dangers of possessing what does not belong to you, and the inherent tragedy of attempting to force a wild, magical creature into a domesticated human life. The inevitable discovery of the sealskin was the climax of many Selkie narratives. Often, it would be one of the Selkie children who, playing hide-and-seek or exploring a forgotten corner of the house, would stumble upon the hidden skin. Curious about the strange leathery object, the child would innocently bring it to their mother. The moment the Selkie's fingers touched the familiar texture of her own skin, a profound shift would occur. The longing that had been a dull ache for years would flare into an irresistible urge, an undeniable call from the sea. With a heart full of conflict, torn between the love for her human family and the irresistible pull of her true home, the Selkie would bid a tearful farewell. Sometimes she would embrace her children one last time, her eyes filled with a love that transcended worlds, before rushing to the shore. There, with one last glance at the light she had briefly known, she would pull the sealskin over her body, transforming in a shimmering instant back into a seal. With a powerful flick of her tail, she would slip beneath the waves, disappearing into the vast expanse of the ocean. Her human husband would often rush to the shore, perhaps having heard the cries of his children or the sudden silence of his home. He would stand there, watching the empty waves, his heart heavy with the understanding that his love, though real, could not contain the wild spirit of the Selkie. The story often concluded with the Selkie returning occasionally, perhaps circling the boat of her husband, or swimming alongside her children. When they played in the shallows, a silent reminder of the magical Heartbreak Lake. These tales of the Selkie wife, found in various forms across the medieval coastal communities of Northern Europe, served as a poignant reminder that even the most passionate human love could not always tame the wild ancient magic of the world. Number 7. The Ladyley Worm of Spindleston, Heugh. In the rugged, windswept landscape of Northumberland, a tale was whispered by hearthfires and sung by bards. A story of royal lineage, wicked magic, and the juby power of love, though perhaps not in the conventional romantic sense. This was the legend of the Ladyley Worm of Spindleston, Heugh, a monstrous creature that was at its heart a princess under a terrible curse. Tale began in Bamburgh Castle, a formidable fortress perched majestically on the coastline, a bastion of medieval power and nobility. Here lived a king, a good and wise ruler who had 2 children of exceptional beauty and spirit. A son, the brave and dashing Prince Child of Wind, and a daughter, the gentle and fair Princess Margaret. Life in the castle was prosperous and joyful until the king, a widower, decided to take a new wife. His chosen queen was a woman of formidable appearance and even more formidable disposition, a sorceress whose heart was as cold as the northern sea. She harbored a bitter jealousy for the king's beautiful children, especially the radiant Princess Margaret. Consumed by her envy, the wicked stepmother, using dark and ancient magic, cast a terrible spell upon Princess Margaret. The princess, known for her grace and charm, was transformed into a creature of utter horror. Her skin turned scaly and green, her body elongated into a monstrous coil, and her gentle voice became a terrifying roar. She was no longer a princess, but the Ladyley Worm, a hideous dragon-like beast with a mouth that stretched wide and eyes that glowed with malevolent fire. The shock and terror across the kingdom were immense. The beautiful princess was gone, replaced by a monstrous serpent that crawled out of the castle and coiled itself around a rocky promontory near the sea known as Spindleston. Heugh, the Ladyley Worm, became a scourge upon the land. Every day, the fearful people of Bamburgh were forced to provide her with a cow which she devoured with gruesome relish. Her hunger, as insatiable as her monstrous form, was repulsive. The once thriving kingdom lived in constant dread under the shadow of this terrifying creature. Yet there was a prophecy, a faint glimmer of hope in the midst of despair that whispered of her release. Only her brother, the Child of Wind, could break the terrible enchantment that held the princess captive. But the Child of Wind was far away, having sailed to distant lands on some knightly quest, unaware of the horrific fate that had befallen his beloved sister. News of the terrible Ladyley Worm eventually reached the ears of Prince Child of Wind. He heard of the monstrous beast demanding its daily tribute, the fear that gripped his people, and a strange sense of unease, a familial connection he could not quite place, stirred within him. Without hesitation, he gathered his brave knights and set sail for home, determined to face this creature and restore peace to his father's land. As his ship approached the coast, the monstrous form of the Ladyley Worm became visible. A truly terrifying sight, coiled upon the rocks, its scales glistening in the sunlight. The prince, upon landing, was warned by his people not to draw his sword, not to strike the beast, for violence would only deepen the curse. Instead, he approached the formidable creature with a sense of quiet determination. The ladly worm unfurled its massive coils, its head rearing up, its great mouth opening as if to consume him. Yet the prince did not falter. He knew instinctively that this was no ordinary beast, and that the path to victory lay not in brute force, but in a different kind of courage. According to the ballad, the prince was instructed by the worm to come close and kiss her, a test of his resolve and a symbol of unconditional acceptance. As he leaned forward past the monstrous snout and terrifying teeth, the prince kissed the ladly worm upon its hideous lips. It was a kiss born of courage, of brotherly love, and a deep, unwavering hope that transcended the grotesque appearance. The moment his lips touched hers, a powerful wave of magic surged. The monster's form began to shimmer and crack, the scales falling away, the serpentine coils shrinking and twisting. In a flash of light, the hideous ladly worm vanished, and in its place stood the beautiful Princess Margaret, restored to her former glory, her eyes shining with tears of gratitude and love for her brave brother. The kingdom rejoiced. The wicked stepmother, her spell broken, was banished from the realm, her dark magic rendered powerless. The story, while not a romantic love story in the traditional sense, highlights the profound bond of familial love, a bond so powerful it could break the most malevolent of curses and transform a horrific beast back into the person she was meant to be. The creature, the ladly worm, was a manifestation of a princess's suffering, and her transformation back was achieved through a selfless act of love, proving that even the most ladly or loathly forms could not hide the true essence of a royal heart. This ancient ballad, a testament to the enduring power of kinship and the triumph of good over evil, continues to be recounted in Northumberland to this day. Number 6. Blugwed. Within the rich tapestry of Welsh mythology, meticulously preserved in texts like the Mabinogion, lies a tale unlike any other one that delves into the very essence of creation. Betrayal and the tragic consequences of a love born of magic. This is the story of Blugwed, a woman literally conjured from the elements whose existence was a testament to powerful sorcery, and whose ultimate fate was to become a creature of the night. The saga of Blugwed begins with the curious predicament of a warrior lord named Lugif. He was under a Gaius, a magical taboo, or curse laid upon him by his own mother, Arianrod. The curse stipulated that Lu could never have a name until she gave it to him, never bear arms until she equipped him, and most notably for our story, he could never marry a woman of any race that was currently on Earth. This last prohibition posed a significant challenge, for Lu desired a wife. To overcome this seemingly insurmountable obstacle, Lu turned to his uncles, the powerful magicians, Gwydion and Fad Mathenwy. These two formidable enchanters, renowned for their mastery over the natural world, decided that if Lu could not marry a woman who was on Earth, they would simply create one for him. And so, with a breathtaking display of ancient Welsh magic, they brought forth Blugwed. She was crafted from the delicate white blossoms of the oak, the vibrant yellow flowers of the broom, and the sweet scented petals of the meadowsweet. From these humble, beautiful plants, Gwydion and Math wove together a living, breathing woman, perfect in her form, exquisitely beautiful, and seemingly destined to be the ideal wife for Lu. Lugif was utterly captivated by his magically created bride. Their marriage was celebrated with great joy and ceremony, and Blugwed, the woman of flowers, brought a newfound happiness to Lu's life. They lived together in contentment, her beauty gracing his halls, her presence fulfilling the magical requirements of his guise. The tale of her unique creation spread throughout the land, a testament to the extraordinary power of the sorcerers and the depth of their desire to see Lu content. However, The love story of Lugh and Blugwed was destined for tragedy. Despite her perfect creation, Blugwed was still a being with her own will, her own desires, and, unfortunately, her own capacity for deceit. One day, while Lugh was away on a visit, Blugwed encountered a huntsman named Gronmu Pebre, Lord of Penland. From the moment their eyes met, a forbidden love, passionate and dangerous, ignited between them. Blugwed, despite her magical origins and her marriage to Lugh, found herself falling deeply for Gron. Their illicit affair soon led to a dark conspiracy. Blugwed, blinded by her new love, and perhaps resenting her magically imposed existence, agreed to help Gron murder Lugh. This was no easy task, for Lugh, due to his magical nature, could not be killed by ordinary means. Blugwed cunningly extracted from Lugh the very specific and bizarre conditions under which he could be slain. He could only be killed at twilight, when neither fully clothed nor completely naked, neither indoors nor outdoors, neither. These convoluted conditions highlight the magical nature of Lugh's being a man protected by powerful enchantment. Blugwed, feigning concern for his safety, persuaded Lugh to demonstrate how these conditions would be met, so she could understand his vulnerabilities. Trusting her, Lugh agreed, unaware of the betrayal simmering beneath her beautiful facade. When he stood in the precise, vulnerable position, Grony Pebre, hidden nearby, cast a specially forged spear. Lugh was struck, but instead of dying, he transformed into an eagle and flew away severely wounded, leaving Blugwed and Gronu to believe their plan had succeeded. Gwydion, discovering his nephew's terrible fate and Blugwed's treachery, was consumed by rage. He set out to find Lugh and to exact vengeance upon Blugwed. After a long search, he found Lugh weak and ailing in the form of an eagle, restored him to his human shape, and nursed him back to health. Then Gwydion turned his attention to Blugwed. He tracked her down, fleeing in terror with her maidens. When he finally confronted Blugwed, Gwydion, the powerful magician who had once created her from flowers, now unleashed his wrath. He declared that she was not worthy of her human form, nor of the beautiful flowers from which she was made. For her betrayal and deceit, he transformed her into an owl. He cursed her to become a creature of the night, forever shunned by other birds, doomed to hunt in the darkness, and her name Blugwed, which meant flower face, was replaced with owl, the name for the creature she had become. The transformation of Blugwed into an owl serves as a powerful, enduring symbol of her treachery and her fall from grace. The love story, born of magic and beauty, ended in a dark betrayal that led to a magical transformation, leaving behind a tragic reminder of a love that was ultimately not true. Number 5. The Loathly Lady. The glittering court of Camelot, renowned for its chivalry and noble knights, was often the backdrop for tales of love, adventure, and formidable magic. One such story, prominently featured in medieval romances like The Wedding of Sir Gawain and Dame Ragnell, centers around a profound moral dilemma and the miraculous transformation of a hideous creature by the power of true respect and love. This is the tale of the Loathly Lady, a creature whose outward appearance was repulsive, but whose inner essence held a magical key to an ancient curse. The narrative began with a grave predicament for King Arthur himself. While hunting in the depths of the forest, Arthur was ambushed by a fearsome and magically potent knight named Sir Gromer Somerjor. This mysterious assailant, holding Arthur captive, presented him with a chilling ultimatum: return in exactly 1 year and a day with the correct answer to a singular perplexing question, or face certain death. The question, which seemed simple enough, turned out to be a profound riddle that baffled all the wise men and scholars of the kingdom. What do women desire most? Arthur, deeply troubled, embarked on a quest across his kingdom, seeking counsel from every corner. Yet no one, from peasant to queen, could provide a definitive answer that satisfied the king. As the fateful deadline loomed, Arthur, despairing, found himself in a remote part of the forest. There, by a desolate lake, he encountered a sight that would test the courage of even the bravest knight. Sitting alone was the most repulsive woman he had ever beheld, a creature so hideous that merely looking upon her filled him with revulsion. Her face was contorted, her nose upturned, her teeth jutted out like tusks, and her body was grotesquely disproportionate. This was the loathly Lady Dame Ragnell. Despite her appalling appearance, the loathly lady possessed an uncanny wisdom. She hailed Arthur, and knowing his predicament, offered him the answer he so desperately sought. Her price, however, was as shocking as her visage. She demanded marriage to one of Arthur's noble knights of the Round Table. Arthur, bound by honor and desperate to save his own life and protect his kingdom, reluctantly agreed, knowing that such a union would be a severe test of chivalry for any of his valiant men. Upon Arthur's return to Camelot, he revealed the answer given by the loathly lady. What women desire most is sovereignty over their own lives. This answer, profound in its simplicity, was deemed correct by Sir Grummer. Summer Joar, and Arthur's life was spared. Now, however, came the difficult part of fulfilling his pledge. No knight wished to marry such a repulsive creature. Yet to his eternal credit, Sir Gawain, the epitome of chivalry and courtesy, stepped forward without hesitation. Understanding the king's plight and upholding the sacred vows of the Round Table, Gawain nobly declared that he would marry the loathly lady, putting the welfare of his king above his own desires. The wedding that followed was a stark affair, filled with quiet awe at Gawain's sacrifice and muted horror at the bride's appearance. Yet Gawain treated her with utmost courtesy and respect, a true testament to his chivalrous spirit. That night, in their wedding chamber, something miraculous occurred. After Gawain's respectful and gentle approach, the loathly lady, in a moment of profound transformation, shed her hideous form and revealed herself as a woman of breathtaking beauty. She explained her predicament. She was under a wicked enchantment cast by a sorceress, often said to be her own stepmother, that could only be broken by a knight of true chivalry who would marry her despite her foul appearance. Curse allowed her to be beautiful for only half the time. He had to choose. Would she be beautiful by day for all the world to admire and hideous by night for him alone to endure? Or would she be beautiful by night in the privacy of their chambers and hideous by day in the public eye? This was a critical moment. A lesser man might have chosen the public display of beauty, but Gawain, true to his character, recognized the core of the riddle Arthur had faced earlier. He replied that the choice was hers, for she should have sovereignty over her own self. By granting her this ultimate freedom of choice, by genuinely respecting her autonomy and not seeking to control her appearance for his own benefit, Gawain completely shattered the curse. With the curse entirely broken, Dame Ragnell became permanently beautiful. She revealed her true identity as the sister of the knight who had previously challenged Arthur, establishing her noble lineage. Their marriage was a truly happy one, built on mutual respect and genuine affection. The loathly lady, initially a creature of magical horror, transformed by an act of love and chivalry, proved that true beauty lay not in outward appearance, but in the nobility of spirit and the granting of personal sovereignty. This enduring medieval romance stands as a powerful reminder that love, when rooted in respect, can conquer even the most formidable of curses and reveal the hidden magic within. Number 4. Bisclavret. The world of medieval French romance, as illuminated by the elegant and inchial lays of Marie de France in the late 12th century, often explored themes of hidden identities, courtly love, and the complex nature of humanity versus animality. Among her most intriguing narratives is Bisclavret, a tale that delves into the life of a knight who harbors a monstrous secret. He is a werewolf, a magical creature whose love and loyalty are ultimately betrayed by the very person he trusts most. Bisclavret was a noble baron, a man of high standing and great respect within his community. He was valiant in battle, honorable in his dealings, and deeply beloved by his beautiful and seemingly devoted wife. Their life together was one of contentment and prosperity. However, Bisclavret carried a profound secret, one that weighed heavily upon his soul, yet was an intrinsic part of his being. For 3 days out of every week, this esteemed knight transformed into a werewolf. He would slip away from his castle journey into the depths of the forest and shed his human form only to resume it when the 3 days had passed, provided his clothes were left undisturbed in a hidden place. For many years, Bisclavret managed his dual existence with discretion, his wife completely unaware of his nocturnal transformation. The strain of keeping such a secret, and perhaps a desperate yearning for true intimacy with the woman he loved, eventually led him to a fateful decision. He confided in his wife, revealing his extraordinary truth, explaining the nature of his transformations and the absolute necessity of keeping his clothes safe during his animal phase, as they were the key to his return to human form. His wife, upon hearing this astonishing confession, was initially overcome with terror. The idea of her beloved husband transforming into a beast, even if only temporarily, filled her with revulsion and fear. This fear, unfortunately, quickly festered into suspicion and then contempt. She began to view him not as her noble husband, but as a monstrous creature. Her revulsion grew so strong that she soon fell in love with another knight, a man who represented the safety and normalcy she felt her husband could no longer provide. Consumed by her new affection and her fear of Bisclavret's secret, the wife plotted a cruel betrayal. She shared her husband's secret with her new lover, and together they devised a plan to permanently trap Bisclavret in his wolf form. One day, when Bisclavret left for his 3-day transformation, his wife ensured that his hidden clothes were stolen. When the time came for him to revert to his human shape, he found himself utterly trapped, unable to regain his true self. The noble baron, a man of honor and love, was now permanently a wolf, abandoned and betrayed by the woman he had trusted with his life and his secret. Bisclavret, in his wolf form, was forced to live in the wild, an outcast from human society. Even as a beast, his inherent noble nature shone through. He did not behave like a savage predator. He remained gentle and approachable, demonstrating an unusual intelligence for a wild animal. One day, the king, who often hunted in the forest, encountered this remarkable wolf. Instead of fleeing or attacking the wolf, approached the king with a surprising display of submission and affection. Impressed by the wolf's unusual demeanor, the king took a liking to him and brought him back to his court. The wolf, who was Bisclavret, became a beloved companion to the king, accompanying him everywhere, sleeping at his feet and demonstrating remarkable loyalty and affection. He became a fixture in the court, admired by all for his gentle nature. Then, one day, the wife's new husband, the knight who had helped her betray Bisclavret, arrived at court. The moment Bisclavret in his wolf form saw this man, his gentle demeanor vanished. He launched a furious, uncharacteristic attack, savaging the man. The king and his courtiers were astonished by this sudden, violent outburst from their usually docile wolf. Later, Bisclavret's estranged wife herself arrived at court. When the wolf saw her, his rage was even more intense. He lunged at her, biting off her nose in a gruesome display of his profound anger and pain. The king, puzzled by the wolf's extreme reactions to these two specific individuals, consulted a wise man who was familiar with the old tales and the workings of magic. The wise man, observing the wolf's behavior and the peculiar nature of the attacks, deduced the truth. He suspected that the wolf was no ordinary animal, but a man under enchantment, and that the two people he attacked were connected to his curse. He urged the king to press the wife and her lover for the truth. Under duress, they confessed their treachery and revealed the location of Bisclavret's hidden clothes. Clothes were brought to the wolf, who, after some deliberation and an understanding that the coast was clear, put them on and transformed back into the noble knight, Bisclaveret. The revelation shocked the entire court. The king, overjoyed to have his knight restored, bestowed upon Bisclaveret great favor and lands. The treacherous wife and her lover were exiled from the kingdom, suffering their own grim punishment. The wife's children, born after the betrayal, were said to be born with their mother's deceit. The story of Bisclaveret, the werewolf knight, stands as a powerful medieval narrative on the fragility of trust, the devastating impact of betrayal, and the enduring loyalty that can be found even in the most monstrous of forms. Creature here is not merely a beast, but a symbol of humanity's capacity for both profound loyalty and chilling treachery. Number 3. Sir Orfeo. Among the many captivating Middle English romances that captivated audiences in the medieval period, the tale of Sir Orfeo stands out for its blend of classical myth and Celtic folklore, creating a poignant and enduring love story that transcends the boundaries of the mortal world. While drawing clear parallels to the Greek myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, Sir Orfeo reimagines the journey into the underworld as a perilous foray into the realm of the Fae, where a devoted king risks everything to rescue his beloved queen from the clutches of otherworldly beings. Sir Orfeo was the noble king of Winchester, a land described as a paradise, filled with prosperity and joy. He was a man of exceptional talent, not only a wise and just ruler, but also a musician of unparalleled skill, particularly with the harp. His melodies were said to be so enchanting that they could charm all living creatures, even the stones and trees. His greatest treasure, however, was his beloved queen, Eurydice, a woman of exquisite beauty and virtue, to whom he was utterly devoted. Their love was a beacon of happiness in their peaceful kingdom. One beautiful May morning, Queen Eurydice went into a garden to enjoy the fresh air and the blossoming flowers. Overcome by a strange weariness, she fell asleep beneath a gnarled tree. When she awoke, she was screaming, tearing at her clothes, and raving in a terrified delirium. Her maidens, alarmed, brought her back to the castle, but her madness persisted. Sir Orfeo, distraught by his wife's sudden affliction, desperately sought answers. Eurydice, in a brief moment of lucidity, explained her terrifying experience. She had been visited in her sleep by the King of the Fairies, a powerful and awe-inspiring figure, accompanied by a vast host of his otherworldly subjects. The Fairy King, riding with his ethereal retinue on magnificent white horses, declared that she was to be taken away to his kingdom. He warned her that if she resisted, she would be torn limb from limb. The vision, so vivid and terrifying, had left her shattered. Despite Orfeo's efforts to guard her standing watch with hundreds of knights, the Fairy King fulfilled his threat. In an instant, Eurydice vanished, spirited away from the very midst of her husband's protective circle. Into the invisible realm of the Fae, Orfeo was consumed by grief. Its queen, his love, was gone, abducted by unseen forces. In his profound despair, he renounced his crown and kingdom, entrusting them to his loyal steward. Dressed in rags, with nothing but his harp, he wandered into the wilderness, choosing to live as a solitary exile, a wild man among the beasts of the forest. For 10 long years, Sir Orfeo roamed the desolate woods, his once royal hands roughened by toil, his noble face gaunt with sorrow. He endured the harsh elements, living on roots and berries, his only solace the haunting melodies he played on his harp. His music, though now born of sorrow, retained its magical power, drawing wild animals to listen in hushed awe. One day, while wandering through a thicket, he witnessed an astonishing sight. A grand procession of otherworldly hunters, their horses white as snow, their hounds silent and swift. Among them, to his astonishment, he saw his beloved Eurydice riding majestically, yet ethereal and unseeing. His heart leaped with desperate hope. He saw her many times after that, sometimes riding in great hosts, sometimes dancing with ethereal maidens. all otherworldly and strangely beautiful. Driven by an unyielding love, Orfeo resolved to follow them. No matter the danger, he tracked the fairy host to a hidden crevice in a rock, a portal to their kingdom. He entered, traversing a dark winding path, and emerged into a land of dazzling illusory beauty, a kingdom of crystal castles and spectral light, unlike anything in the mortal world. The fairy kingdom was a place of both wonder and horror, filled with strange sights and the forms of those stolen from the human world, their bodies seemingly alive, yet hollow. Orfeo boldly made his way to the magnificent castle of the Fairy King, a fortress of pure light and illusion. He announced himself as a poor minstrel and begged for the chance to play his harp before the king. His music, imbued with his love and sorrow, was so beautiful, so utterly enchanting, that it moved even the stoic Fairy King. King, captivated by the music, promised to grant Orfeo any boon he desired. Orfeo, without hesitation, requested his wife, Eurydice, a woman whom he pointed out among the ghostly retinue. The Fairy King initially balked, claiming it was unfitting for such a beautiful queen to be given to such a ragged minstrel, but Orfeo held him to his royal word, reminding him of his oath. Bound by his promise, the Fairy King reluctantly released Eurydice. Their reunion was a moment of profound joy, a testament to Orfeo's enduring love and unwavering courage. Eurydice, though thin and pale from her time in the fairy realm, recognized her husband, her eyes filling with a mixture of relief and affection. Together they escaped the fairy kingdom and returned to the mortal world. Orfeo, ever the wise king, tested his steward's loyalty before revealing his return, ensuring his kingdom was still in good hands. Once assured, he revealed his true identity, restored to his throne, and joyfully reunited with his people and his beloved queen. The magical creatures of the Fey realm, with their king, represented both the threat and the catalyst for Orfeo's epic journey. A powerful force that tested the very limits of love and devotion. Number 2. Lanval. In the intricate tapestry of medieval Arthurian romance, woven with threads of chivalry, courtly intrigue, and supernatural encounters, the Lais of Mare de France offer a particularly enchanting glimpse into the hearts of knights and the allure of otherworldly beings. Among these, the story of Lanval stands as a compelling example of forbidden love, secret passions, and the profound power of a magical creature's affection. It is a tale of a valiant knight who finds true love not in the earthly court of Camelot, but in the ethereal embrace of a fairy queen. Lanval was a knight of King Arthur's Round Table, a man of courage and skill, yet inexplicably overlooked by the king and queen. He was impoverished and solitary despite his noble birth and admirable qualities. While other knights received gifts and favors, Lanval remained unnoticed, his quiet dignity concealing a deep loneliness. One day, feeling the sting of his neglect keenly, he rode out from Camelot into a tranquil meadow, seeking solace in the solitude of nature. As he wandered by a clear stream, he encountered a sight that would change his life forever. Two maidens of exquisite beauty, dressed in rich silken gowns, emerged from the woods. They beckoned him towards a magnificent tent, adorned with gold and precious stones, more splendid than any pavilion of a mortal king. Inside, reclining on a bed draped in rich purple silk, lay a lady of unimaginable beauty, a fairy queen, her skin fairer than lily, her hair like spun gold, her eyes sparkling like emeralds. Her presence radiated an otherworldly grace and power. The fairy queen, whose name was never given in the tale, immediately confessed her love for Lanval. She had traveled from a distant land, drawn to his noble spirit and his overlooked virtue. Their connection was instantaneous and profound. She lavished him with gifts, immense wealth, the finest armor, a swift horse, and a squire who magically appeared whenever he needed him. But her greatest gift was her love, an ardent and devoted affection that filled Lanval's lonely heart. However, her love came with a strict and perilous condition. He must never, under any circumstances, reveal their secret love or her existence to anyone. If he broke this promise, he would lose her forever, and she would never return. Lanval, now a knight of sudden prosperity and newfound joy, returned to Arthur's court. His mysterious wealth and renewed spirit were immediately apparent, and soon the envy of the other knights began to stir. His sudden good fortune attracted the attention of Queen Guinevere, King Arthur's queen, a woman often portrayed with a complex blend of beauty, pride, and sometimes jealousy. Guinevere, noticing Lanval's handsome appearance and newfound confidence, attempted to seduce him. Lanval, utterly devoted to his fairy lover and bound by his sacred vow, gently but firmly rejected the queen's advances. Wounded by his refusal and infuriated by his perceived disrespect, Guinevere unleashed her wrath. In her anger, she accused him of being unworthy of women's love, to which Lanval, driven by passion and perhaps a foolish lapse in judgment, made a fatal boast. He declared that his own beloved, though he could not speak her name, was so beautiful and so noble that even her lowliest maiden surpassed the queen in beauty and worth. Guinevere, deeply insulted and enraged by this comparison, immediately went to King Arthur, falsely accusing Lanval of attempting to seduce her and then slandering her character. Arthur, furious at the alleged insult to his queen, had Lanval arrested and put on trial with the grave charge of treason hanging over his head. Lanval, unable to defend himself without revealing his secret, faced certain doom. He sent for his fairy queen, but she did not appear, seemingly having abandoned him for his broken vow. The trial progressed, and Lanval's fate seemed sealed. Just as the judgment was about to be passed, a glimmer of hope appeared. First 2 maidens, then 2 more equally beautiful and exquisitely dressed, rode into the court on magnificent palfreys, requesting a delay in the proceedings. Finally, riding a stunning white palfrey, came the fairy queen herself, her beauty so overwhelming that it eclipsed the sun and moon, astonishing all who beheld her. She was a vision of perfection, her presence filling the court with an otherworldly radiance. She confirmed Lanval's story, declaring him innocent of any malicious intent, though acknowledging he had broken his promise. As a demonstration of her truth, she allowed a drop of her healing balm to fall from her horse's ear onto King Arthur's eyes, restoring his sight and ability to see truth. She then turned her attention to Lanval, who was faint with relief and adoration. Their connection, despite the breach of promise, remained unbroken. With a final dramatic gesture, the fairy queen mounted her white palfrey, and Lanval, leaping onto the horse behind her, rode away with her. They disappeared into the mists, heading towards the enchanted island of Avalon, the mythical realm where heroes and magical beings resided. They were never seen again in the mortal world, their love destined to continue in the hidden realms. The creature in this tale is the Fairy Queen, a powerful, benevolent, and exquisitely beautiful magical being who represents the ultimate idealized lover, capable of transcending earthly limitations. Number 1. Melusine. Among the most pervasive and enchanting medieval love stories featuring magical creatures is the legend of Melusine, a figure so central to European folklore that her story became intertwined with noble lineages and the very founding of castles and dynasties. Her tale, particularly popularized by Jean de Arras' Roman de Melusine in the late 14th century, explores themes of forbidden knowledge, broken vows, and the tragic consequences of a love that attempts to tame an untamable magical essence. Melusine is not just a woman with a secret. She's a powerful, beautiful being, bound by an ancient curse, her love a source of immense prosperity and equally profound sorrow. The legend begins with Raymond, a young nobleman from Poitou who, in a moment of reckless hunting, accidentally kills his uncle. Distraught and fleeing the consequences of his actions, he wanders into a forest and comes upon a mysterious fountain, the Fons Sapiens. There, by the shimmering waters, he encounters three exquisitely beautiful women, among them Melusine, whose beauty and grace immediately captivate him. Melusine, discerning his distress and understanding his predicament, offers him a solution. She promises to make him rich and powerful, to help him build a magnificent castle and found a great lineage if he agrees to marry her. Raymond, overwhelmed by her beauty and the promise of a glorious future, readily accepts. However, Melusine presents one crucial, non-negotiable condition. He must never, under any circumstances, disturb her on Saturdays. On this one day of the week, she required complete solitude, withdrawing from him and the world, and he was to never ask why. Raymond, deeply in love and eager for the prosperity she offered, swore solemnly to uphold this vow. Their marriage was a resounding success. Melusine, with her uncanny wisdom and magical abilities, indeed made Raymond incredibly wealthy and powerful. They built the magnificent castle of Lusignan and other strongholds throughout the region, seemingly by magic. Their union was blessed with many children, usually 10 or more sons, who would go on to found noble houses across Europe, from Lusignan to Cyprus, Bohemia, and Luxembourg. However, these children often bore strange marks. One might have one eye, another a particularly large ear, or a face covered in scales. These unique traits hinted at their mother's hidden magical nature. Raymond lived a life of unprecedented happiness and success, all thanks to his mysterious wife. Yet a nagging curiosity, fueled by the whispers of his envious relatives, particularly his brother, who suggested Melusine might be unfaithful or even demonic, began to plague him. Despite years of prosperity and apparent contentment, Raymond's suspicion grew. His brother subtly planted seeds of doubt, questioning why Melusine insisted on such privacy every Saturday. One fateful Saturday, unable to resist the temptation any longer, Raymond yielded to his curiosity and the malicious suggestions of his brother. He drilled a small hole in the door of Melusine's private chamber and peered inside. What he saw shocked him to his core. From the waist down, Melusine's body was transformed into that of a great serpent coiled in a tub of water with large scaled wings. She was not a monster in her actions, but simply in her true cursed form. Raymond was horrified, but he kept his discovery secret for a time. Plagued by guilt and shame for having broken his vow, he continued to live with Melusine, and their life continued, but the hidden knowledge created an irreparable fissure in their love. The love story, once founded on trust, was now tainted by betrayal. The inevitable public confrontation came during a moment of profound anger and public dispute. One of their sons, Geoffrey with the great tooth, had committed a terrible act of violence, destroying a monastery. Raymond, in a fit of rage and grief over his son's actions and perhaps seeking to deflect blame, publicly denounced Melusine, crying out that she was a false serpent and that his son's monstrous nature stemmed from her. The accusation, spoken aloud and in public, shattered Melusine. The spell, or the condition of her curse, required her transformation to remain secret. Now her husband had publicly revealed her true nature, breaking his most sacred vow. With a heart-wrenching wail of despair and betrayal, Melusine transformed fully into a magnificent winged serpent or dragon. She flew out of the castle window, circling the towers 3 times, her cries echoing with profound sorrow, before disappearing into the sky. She was never again seen in human form. From that day on, Melusine became a protective spirit of her lineage, a phantom banshee-like figure who would appear circling the castle of Lusignan or flying over the lands of her descendants, always before a death or a great misfortune struck her family. Her mournful cries were a haunting omen, a reminder of the beautiful, powerful creature whose love was both a blessing and ultimately a tragic burden. Due to a broken promise, creature in this tale, Melusine is not just a woman with a secret, but a symbol of the wild, magical world colliding with human curiosity and the devastating consequences when trust is violated. Her story woven through the very fabric of medieval noble history, continues to captivate, a poignant testament to the magical women who walked among us, half human, half mystery.